So there are four major responsibilities and challenges for parents. And the first one is how to maintain our current lifestyle. The second one would be staying on track for retirement. The third one is funding college for our kids. And the fourth one is to secure our family's future in the case of unexpected circumstances. And those are the real four main responsibilities or challenges that we have as parents financially in order to do that. So we want to look at how we do all those. Firstly, I want to just say that the fastest age group for college debt in our country is 50 and older. One of the fastest growing age groups for student loan debt, 50 and older. Now that's really surprising because you would think that at age 50 and older that we would be done with student loans. Well, these are student loans that we take out for our kids. For 60 and older is the fastest growing age group for student loan debt. And so that's pretty shocking that many parents in their 50s and especially their 60s are ending up in a lot more student loan debt than we would want and we would think. That those stats come from the Department of Education. So let's talk a little bit about FAFSA. As parents of seniors, most of us has probably heard of FAFSA. Many of you have probably filled out the FAFSA form. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we cover a number of things with this. The FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And this determines your ability to qualify for need-based financial aid. The types of financial aid, we have merit-based financial aid, which is based on student achievements and GPA and SAT and essay skills, things like that. And then the need-based is based on parents' financial numbers. Negotiated financial aid is based on the process and the list of schools that you have, and that comes right at the end where if you've gone through the process correctly, there should be a possibility of being able to negotiate. So let's talk a little bit about why should I complete the FAFSA form. Firstly, that most schools will require you to complete the FAFSA form in order to assess your possible financial aid and your need-based financial aid. And we strongly encourage all parents to fill out the FAFSA form, whether you think you might get aid or not. And it will also determine possible future need for the families. So what does the FAFSA give me? It gives me a number. When I'm done with the FAFSA, we want to make sure that after we've clicked submit, we look at the last page, and in small print, it actually tells you what your family's EFC number is. And your EFC number stands for Expected Family Contribution. This is the expected family contribution is not the amount of financial aid that you will get, but it is the amount that you will need to write on your personal check before you can get any need-based financial aid. So what is my EFC made up of? It's made up of 7 different things. It's parent income, parent assets, student income, student assets, the ages of the parents, the number of people in the household, and the type of assets that you have. And then lastly, also the type of school that you have, because there are different types of EFC based on the schools that you have. So if you have not completed the FAFSA form, then you will probably find out that there's some prep needed for the FAFSA form. If you have already, you've probably done this. You will need your tax returns, your estimated income for 20, actually that should be 2020, and then the balances of any assets or bank accounts, stock accounts, trusts, 529s, ATMA and AGMA accounts. You will need the balances in all those. No retirement accounts are needed. And then I also will need records of any income or assets in the student's name. Latest mortgage statement for any house or rental properties, social security numbers, date of birth for students and parents, driver's license for students and parents, and then the list of schools that you've applied to can be 10 or more more can be added at a later date. So the maximum of 10 is actually put on the FAFSA form, and then you can add more later on. So those are the things that you're going to need before you sit down and complete the FAFSA form. Let's talk a little bit about timing, and I know we're late in the year to do this, but October the 1st is earliest date that you can apply for FAFSA form, and then March 2nd, 2021 is the deadline, the last date that you can fill in the FAFSA form. So anytime between October and March the 2nd. We encourage you to fill it out, the earlier the better. But there's also a couple of things that, that you need to do before you file the FAFSA form. Some colleges will also require additional financial information, such as the CSS profile form. We suggest that you prioritize sending out your applications to the colleges first and then the FAFSA form. So if you think about it, if you fill out the FAFSA and you put the schools in and they send the information off to the school and the school hasn't received an application yet, then they're going to say, we don't even know the student. So we suggest that you send the applications to the schools first. Very often what the schools will do, they will assign a student number to your student and send them an email confirming that they've received the application. Then at least you know, once you complete the FAFSA form, that the student has a registration number with the school, and when they get the information, they will recognize who it's for. So before I complete the FAFSA form, I would suggest that you actually go to our website and you complete what is called a free college money report, and you'll get an estimate of what your expected family contribution would be before you complete the FAFSA form. And we'll give you an estimate of that possible aid so that you have something to compare the number to when you fill out the FAFSA form. And also, if you give details of the colleges you apply to, you'll be able to see some scholarships at those colleges, and gives you the ability to compare your EFC. Many parents ask some questions about, can I file my student as an independent? Well, if you these are the requirements as for an independent. I was born before 1998, or married or separated. A married student must report their spouse's financial information also on the financial aid application. If you're working for a master's or a doctorate degree, if you have children of your own and you pay more than half of your child's expenses, or if you're an emancipated minor currently serving in the armed forces or a veteran. So if you answered yes to any of these, then that student is designated as independent for federal financial aid purposes. Let's see who reports as a parent. If parents are married to each other, both of them report their financial information. If the parents live together but are not married, whether it means they were never married, got divorced, or separated, still both of them report their financial information. If parents are not married and do not live together, then the financial information of the parent of the student, where the student lived more than 50% of the past year, or the custodial parent, is reported. That's the information that you put on the FAFSA form. If the parents are not married and do not live together, but the student lived with the parents equally, then it's the parent who provided the most financial support who will report their information. If the custodial parent is remarried, then the step parent's financial information is reported as well. If one of the parents is deceased, then their financial information is not reported. If the student lives with legal guardians or foster parents, then their financial information is not reported. However, the financial support of the student is counted as income to the student. So I would suggest that you consult your college advisor on which schools require non-custodial parent information, as this actually could make a huge difference. And so here you can see that your choices of schools will make a big difference. What about the CSS profile? This is needed for a certain list of schools that require both the FAFSA and the CSS profile. Many private schools use this calculation, and it differs from your FAFSA EFC. Schools like USC, Notre Dame, those are some of the private schools. And there's a link here that you can get. So if you go back to this or watch the video, or just go to cssprofile.collegeboard.org, and then you can see the instructions for how to fill out the CSS profile form. But the school will probably also send you a link. So once you've sent in your application, you filled out the FAFSA form, the schools that require the CSS profile form will probably send you an email and say, click here to go to complete the CSS profile form. When parents are divorced or separated, then college may request financial information of both parents, no matter who the custodial parent is, if they're using the CSS profile form. This form also, or these schools also take the equity in your home into account. On the FAFSA form, the equity in your home is not taken into account. And the two parents both can access the application separately and complete it separately. There's also a COVID question added to for this year for you to be able to make adjustments that are not on your 2019 taxes. I would suggest maybe speak to us first, as you might not want to answer the COVID question on the application, but then send that in separately to the school. So let's take a look at the process of registering or doing the FAFSA form. In order to do that, you first need to register for your federal student aid, student ID first, and you go to fsaid.ed.gov, and this page will come up and they will require you to register. Now, remember that both the student and the parent need to register for their own FSA IDs, and you put all your information in. Basically, what they're wanting to do here is coordinate and make sure that your name, your social security number, and everything matches. Here's some tips for the FSA ID. Remember, you're going to complete the FAFSA form every single year. So I would suggest that you keep a record of your username, your passwords, your save key, and the security prompt questions. You know, mother's maiden name, what was the color of your first car, what's the name of your first kid, things like that. And so you keep a record of that, because next year you're also going to come back and do that, and you can just log into the same FAFSA form with the same FSA ID. I also suggest that you register your email address and phone for texts to get information, and you're probably going to need that to confirm this. Also, remember, it can take up to 3 days to verify your Social Security and give you and your FSA ID. So prepare beforehand. Don't just go and register for the FSA ID and then think you're going to go and register for the FAFSA form, because your identity might not be verified yet. There's some various sections in completing the FAFSA form. When you go, once you've done your FSA ID, then you can go to this website here, and you can start registering things. One thing I want to say is, remember that the F for FAFSA stands for free. It's the free application for federal student aid. So if you've got any places that are asking you for money for that, then you're probably at the incorrect website. There are various sections on the FAFSA. There's the sections for student information, parent information, your parents' finances, the IRS data retrieval tool, and then for the student finances, and then right at the end, where the signatures where both the parent and the student need to sign. I've got the question there, should I use the IRS data retrieval tool? And my suggestion is yes, because it will help you. A lot of your the questions that you are asked will automatically be answered if you download the IRS data retrieval tool. And what that does is it will start asking you questions about your income and that kind of stuff. And then if you filed taxes last year, it will say, would you like to use this tool to download the information? And what it does is that it actually links to the IRS website and automatically completes that, because you're reporting information on the FAFSA from your taxes of 2019. Remember, the assets that you're going to report are based on the asset balances on the day that you complete the FAFSA form. The other thing about the IRS data retrieval tool is that many schools, if you do not complete this, if you do not fill in or use the IRS data retrieval tool, some of the schools come back and ask you to go back and to complete that and to use that tool. Here's some tips for filling out the FAFSA form. Let me just go back here. In all these sections here, it'll ask about student information. Once you've filled out the student social security number, date of birth, which school they're at, which year they're going to graduate, things like that. It will then ask for information about if the student had any income, if the student has any assets. Maybe let me just give a tip here. If your student has assets, the cash in their savings account or things like that, substantial amount of money, it counts against you for your financial aid more than it does if that asset is in the parent's name. So remember that any money that's saved up in the parent's name counts less against you than if it's in the student name. It's kind of almost double the amount in the if the amount's in the student name. So if your student's sitting with $2,000 in their savings account and you know that you're going to buy them a laptop when they graduate, then I would suggest spend that money, buy them the laptop or whatever it is that you were going to use for the student anyway. Spend the money that's in their account and then you can report the money that's in your account. For parent finances, remember that certain assets that are liquid assets could actually increase your EFC, which reduces your financial aid. On these tips here, no retirement accounts actually count. None of them count, so don't put in. I've encountered a lot of parents who've put them in as assets, and your retirement accounts should not go into the FAFSA form. Can I use 529 funds for high school? Yes, you can, up to $10,000. So if you have money in a 529 plan and you are paying for, let's say you're paying for Servite for this year, you can actually take up to $10,000 out of that 529 plan and use it to pay your Servite fees, and you still won't have any penalties or taxes on the growth. There is a button to say, would you like to apply for work study? My suggestion is to everybody that you say, yes, you would like to apply for work study. You can turn it down later on, but it's very tough to get the work study if you don't put it on your FAFSA form. Then the next line is kind of the same thing as I mentioned about the 529 plan. If you have a bunch of cash saved up, and you need to still pay your taxes, you need to pay your property taxes, you need to pay, you're going to buy your kid a car, or you were going to spend it to buy a new car, or anything like that, that you were going to spend the money anyway, then I would suggest that you spend down some of that cash so that it reduces your balances when you complete the FAFSA form. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go out and spend a lot of money just because you think you'll save money on the FAFSA form. That's not what I'm doing. But if you were going to spend that money anyway, then I would just do that first. Pay your property taxes, pay for Servite, pay for, any sporting things that you might do, or any laptop that you're going to buy the kid, or anything like that. Then also remember that there's some special circumstances appeal, especially this year with the COVID thing, that if your income is going to be way lower this year than it was last year, if you have somebody in your family who passed away and you're going to lose some income there, if you've been unemployed, then you absolutely want to appeal the FAFSA, and those appeals need to go directly to the schools. After you've completed the FAFSA form, those appeals need to go directly to the school. Then once you're done, before you click submit, I would suggest that you save that student aid report, and there'll be a place on there where you can say print this report out, and save that report and print it out so that you know what you've put down on the FAFSA form and you have a record of that. And then after you've clicked submit, make a note, also print that page and make a note of that EFC number so that you know what your EFC number is. And then if you haven't completed the FAFSA form and you have gone to our website and you completed that, that student money report, then you can compare your EFC number to see if they're even close, if they're in the same ballpark. And that's the way that you can actually check to see if you've completed some of the stuff correctly. Some of the institutional methodology schools will use the CSS profile form, and there you can see the website is cssprofile.collegeboard.org. And most of the schools will send you the link to this and ask you to complete the CSS profile form. It's very, very similar to the FAFSA form, except they will ask you some more information, kind of like your house, how much equity do you have in your home, and all that kind of stuff. Then Cal Grants, they will let you know if you're eligible for Cal Grants, and you can kind of apply for that. So let me just back up and go to the process and the timing again. Your application is what needs to go in first to the schools. Then you complete the FAFSA form, and then the schools will send you an acceptance letter to say, thanks very much for applying, and we've accepted you into our school, and we'll offer you a $5,000 or a $10,000 scholarship. Now remember, that is your merit aid. A lot of that will be based on your GPA at school, and if you have a 3.5 or you have a 4.0, they've got certain levels, and they'll say anybody with a 3.5 or anybody with a 4.0 will qualify for a $5,000 scholarship or a $10,000 scholarship or whatever it is that that school has in their acceptance profile. So that is then the merit aid that they're going to give you. Then typically only after the end of the year do most schools actually start looking at the need-based financial aid. And then what happens is that you'll receive an offer. So remember, the first one is an acceptance into the school, but they haven't made their final offer to you yet. Many cases, the offers only come, the final offers only come after New Year, and some of them only come right before the end of March. And so then you want to start comparing the offers from the school, and it might be to say, okay, we gave you the $10,000 merit aid, and then here's, based on your FAFSA form, we're going to give you some need-based financial aid, or here's a scholarship because, for instance, with my son, he played viola. He got a music scholarship, he played viola. Somebody else might get a scholarship based on something else that they did that the school actually needs. Once you've received all those offers together, you want to put them side by side. And remember that most offers don't look alike. And so it can be confusing. It might look like you've received financial aid, but it's actually a loan. So when they say that you've received financial aid, make sure which are scholarships and grants and which are loans. And so you want to kind of designate between the two. And then you can start your negotiation, and then the student will need to accept the college. So that's kind of the process and the timing of this. Let's take a look at how much my student can borrow. This is in the student's name, because sometimes parents, when I talk to them, I say to them, how are you going to pay for college? And they say, oh, my student's going to have to borrow the money. Well, let's take a look at reality as to how much they can borrow. In year one, the government will lend them $5,500, year two, $6,000, year three, $6,500, and year four, $7,000. Any more than that, the parents are going to have to sign for. So very often these are a combination of subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans. Subsidized means there's no payment and no interest until after college, and unsubsidized means that there's no payment until after college, but the interest will accrue during college. That's the difference between the two. In year one, it's usually split up like $3,000 of a subsidized loan and $2,500 of an unsubsidized loan. So that's about the maximum that your student can borrow in their name. After that, the parents need to help out. So here we can see current loan rates, and these loan rates, the direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans for undergraduates, this is in the student's name, is typically at the moment 4.53%, and that interest is deductible to the students later on when they're earning income. It's tax deductible. Then the direct unsubsidized loans are available to graduates or professionals, and the interest rate for them is 6.08%. These are also tax deductible to the student, or the interest is. And then you get direct plus loans for the parent or the graduate students, and the interest rate there is 7.08%. And this interest is not deductible to the parent. So you can actually see it's pretty high. These are all rates are fixed and will not change for the life of the loan. Now, if these rates are pretty high and you finish studying, then there are many companies that will offer to refinance your student loan if you can get a lower rate on that. Just remember also that for those who are aiming at student forgiveness on those loans, you cannot get forgiveness on those student loans if you have refinanced them. You have to keep them at these rates. And then just remember that one of the things that makes these loans very expensive is the direct subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans have a loan fee of 1%, and the plus loans is really expensive at 4.236%. So that's really filling out the FAFSA form, the CSS profile form, the process, the timing, things you're going to need to do that. Let's talk a little bit about college and retirement. And this is kind of putting the process together, because as I said in the beginning, in many cases, we give our lives for our kids. My question as a financial advisor often is, should we be doing that? Because remember, you can borrow for college, you cannot borrow for retirement. So the question here is, do I know the answers of the 4 vital financial questions that every financial advisor should be able to answer? And these are, what rate of return do I have to earn on my savings and investment dollars to be able to retire at my current standard of living and have enough money to last through my life expectancy? That's kind of the first question that my financial advisor should be able to answer for me. The second question is, how much do I need to save on a monthly basis or an annual basis to be able to retire at my current standard of living and that my money will last me through life expectancy? The third question is, doing what I'm currently doing now, how long will I have to work to be able to retire and live in my current lifestyle or until life expectancy? And then the fourth question is, if I don't do anything different to what I'm doing today, how much will I have to reduce my standard of living at retirement in order for my money to last through to life expectancy? These are 4 vital questions that every financial advisor should be able to answer for their clients. And here's the reason why. When we look at college and retirement, as I said, most parents would give our lives for our kids. The question is, should we be doing this? Because what are we teaching them by just giving them a blank check? Now, if you can afford an expensive college and you're able to retire without running out of money or relying on your kids for help in future, then that is a wonderful thing. If you've gone through all those numbers. But as a financial advisor, I try to get families to consider the reality and hear and see the truth with a plan. Sometimes it's not popular with the parents, but it's really my job to help the parents. So all we want to do is make sure that we go into this with our eyes open. Do I have the number of what my end cost will be after loan interest and inflation? Have I added in all the costs of any other kids that might be going to college? Where is the money coming from? Am I going to borrow it? Which account is it coming from? What is it going to cost me? Firstly, let me tell you, we borrow for college no matter what. We're either borrowing from somebody else or we're borrowing from our own retirement. But we really need to see it as we're borrowing no matter what. If I am taking on loans, where is the most efficient place to get the money? So here are 10 things important things that parents need to know about college. Firstly, my student has these expectations, but I'm not sure if I can afford to send them there. And what discussions should I have with my student? A couple of examples on that is, have we as parents decided or discussed together, are we paying for everything, or do we want our kids to have some skin in the game? Whether it be with some scholarships, whether it be that they're contributing with student loans, even if I'm going to offer to help them pay off the student loans if they graduate in 4 years. But what discussions should I have with my students so that we're all on the same page as to who's paying for college and who's contributing? Secondly, I would also say, do we have a number in mind as to what college is going to cost? Have we kind of put that number out there, and have we had that discussion with our students so that they know what the expectations are, so that they don't come waving an acceptance letter from the most expensive school, and you look at the cost of $75,000 and you say, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. That just kind of will lead to broken relationships and broken dreams. We want to manage some expectations. The other thing is, which school on the list that my student has uses the federal methodology and which uses the institutional methodology? And have I compared my EFC or the breakdown of what that would cost? Because it's possible that I could afford one and maybe not the other. Do I know the dollar cost of the colleges that my student has on the list? Because the same school might be $25,000 for one family and $50,000 for another family. Maybe with the kid next door is in the same class, same age, taking same subjects with same GPA, applying to the same school, and their cost might be $25,000 and yours might be $50,000. And this is based on because your personal financial circumstances might be different. What is the effect on my kids and spouse of funding college and then running out of money in retirement? Many of us as parents are looking after both our parents and our kids. It's called the sandwich generation. And so the question is, these decisions that I'm making now for what we can afford for college or what we can't are going to have an impact on my kids later on. Even if we think that we might be sacrificing for our kids now, there's a strong possibility that for some families that their kids might be looking after them later in life. And we would then wonder if we've done this whole thing justice. Have I considered the effects of the choices that I'm making for student one on student number two coming along later? So many times I see families that would send their kid to college, and then student number two comes along and they don't have the same resources or finances for student number two. The new tax law and its effect on college financial planning, that's really about the 529 plans and the ability to use money out of the 529 plans to pay for private high school. Do I have to accept the first offer that the school makes, or can I negotiate for a better deal? This, remember I spoke about it early on, comes from the process that you go through in planning and which schools that you put on your list. Sometimes we even recommend that a student might put a school on his list that he doesn't really want to go to, but he might get a competing offer from so that he can use that in a negotiation. Here's the one vital question that a school counselor cannot ask a parent. And that question is, how much money do you have in your savings account, in your checking account? What do your finances look like? The counselors at your high school are doing their utmost to get the best for your student, to get them through high school, to get them the best grades, to help them through their choices and things like that. But they really cannot come up to the parent and start asking you about financial questions, which is one of the reasons why Servite has invited us to speak with and help the parents who need help on this. There are many schools that don't have any resources for their parents to actually go through some of these questions and go through some of this planning. What we are offering to everybody on the webinar tonight from Servite is to schedule a no-cost 90-minute appointment. We can either do that online or in person. And feel free to reach out to me either on the phone number or the email address there. And we would be happy to schedule this no-cost 90-minute appointment where we can answer any of your questions. We can do an estimate of your EFC or go through your current FAFSA student aid report to see if everything was done correctly, if anything that we might be able to help you with to make this process more effective and more efficient for you. So if you've got questions as to, you know, how am I going to pay for college? Where's the most efficient way to do that? How should I be looking at my finances? Is this going to affect my retirement? We'd be happy for you to contact us and do that. So the biggest mistake that people make after hearing all this information, in my opinion, is that they assume that we cannot help them. We are willing to help the parents if you're interested in doing that. But in many cases, sometimes parents come to me and they say, well, I heard what you said, but I don't think you can help me. And my response to that is, yeah, I don't think I can help you, certainly because I don't know your circumstances. And it's only when we go one-on-one and we look at your specific circumstances that we can then decide, you know, what help we can give and how we're able to help you. So I would encourage you, if you want to reach out to us, and we'd be very happy to help you with that. Let me just go back and see what some of the, if there's any questions that we have on here. Okay, I am. Wow, I'm looking here, and there's actually lots of questions of people who can't get on the sound and that. So we will send this recording out to anybody who's on the webinar, just in case that you weren't able to get sound on this. We'll send you a link, and you can watch the recording at your leisure. So please reach out to us if you need any help, and I'd be happy to help you. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.